Mayor. Thank you. District 1, Councilman Rios.
Present.
District 2, Councilman Pastor is excused. District 3, Councilman Leatham.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton is excused. District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley.
Here.
Mayor Gameros.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley. Can you lead us in the invocation?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your many blessings and thank you for this community. We pray that you would please bless the meeting and the business that will be discussed, that it may preserve our city's integrity and future. Father, we ask that you would bless each person here tonight and the families they represent. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with summary of current events, and Jesse will start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to just give out a shout out there for everybody, all the city employees, for the wonderful First Friday event that just went on, and express my apologies for missing the last Citizens Academy. I was supposed to go into my past store, but I had prior obligations with my family. But I look forward to seeing them during the clerk's visit. So, thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mariano.
there was a change in the weather, but I do caution people to watch out there. There's still a high fire rate there, so be careful out there. Keep an eye on your campfires and understand that we're not out of fire danger yet, so be alert out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Fernando?
Mayor, I have this in the report.
Ready?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to echo Councilman Leeslum compliments and comments about the First Friday. I did spend a little time passing through, and it was such a festive event. I mean, you could just the music, the food, and just people mingling. I thought it was really, really neat. It's really nice and exciting to see events like this just blossom from when we first started this. And for those of you that haven't been here, if you're listening from abroad, take the time to come. This is the perfect season, perfect climate, and there's a lot to see and do. So hats off to all those that make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Yeah, I want to thank the staff for that put on the State of the City. They did a lot of work to get it set up, and everybody that attended, council, the public, the staff. People, I think, enjoyed it, and we gave a lot of information out to where we're at and where we're going. So again, thank you to staff for everything that you do. Also want to remind everybody that with our Go Forward movement, it's about cleanup and beautification. So this weekend is one of three for the hosting, and it'll be cleanup, and they'll put the canisters in different locations in Globe. I don't know the exact. It is on social media, but it's this Friday, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. So if you have debris or whatever, make sure that you find those locations and try and clean up around your neighborhood. It'd be great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much. Just a couple things. I think the biggest announcement is the pool season will be wrapping up this October. Only in Arizona is pool season go into October. And they've been brave souls, have been out there, and people having fun every night and on the weekends. So the schedule is on October 19th is the last practice for the Tiger Sharks. October 20th is a Friday, and that'll have open swim noon to 5, and that will be our last open swim. Then on Saturday and Sunday, we'll be draining the pool in preparation for on Monday when Atari gets here, and they have some warranty checks and some issues that need to be addressed. It's pretty much going to be back to all those things that we weren't able to get done before we opened a week after Memorial Day. The heater, we've had trouble getting back and forth on getting the heater lined up. We're going to get that resolved that October, and then we will crank it up and see what difference it makes. I don't know if it'd be swimmable, but we do not have any plans to open up the season after the repairs, unless we just have maybe one polar bear day sometime in the in the middle of the winter. But no, it's been a great season, and you know, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of learning for the city, and we look forward to starting the next season. We don't have a date yet, but in the spring as soon as we can. Last thing, the Gorman project, the Maple Street closure. I went by there today. They seem like they made good progress, but I don't know this stuff. So it's but it's looking good. I'm can tell from looking at that it'll be wrapped up before the end of spring of winter break. And so thank you to the Gorman and to city staff for getting our cars aligned so that the closure happened when school was out of session. So, and many other things, but for now, Mr. Mayor, members of council, except for tonight's exciting night with all the water projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our first community call with public. Again, this is the time that any citizen desiring to speak on any matter can do so. You are limited to 3 minutes. At this time, council cannot respond to you, but can direct staff for a follow-up on any comments. So do we have any, I have no sheets. Do we have any?
No text.
Nothing on the internet and anything on the phone? Nothing on the phone, and no one.
Anybody in the audience? SJB back there? Yes. You want to fill out a sheet? You can do it after. Come up and speak and, yeah, come up to the podium up here. State your name and address and then we'll let you speak.
Well, I went to September of 1940. I have to confess, this is only my second council meeting. But the last time I was here, Jim Brockett got up and spoke, and then he left, and I got up and spoke, and as I left, I saw he was sitting out front in a chair. He couldn't make it to his car. And he died a few days later, so you know he valued the council meeting. He thought it was worthwhile to spend. He knew the condition he was in health-wise, and he thought this was a good way to spend what time he had left. Well, at that meeting, I mentioned, I think, training jet noise, and I've tried to contact the Air Force Base. They don't answer the phone, and they don't return calls. And so what I wanted to do was mention that last Friday I was hanging laundry in the late morning hours, and a jet came over, and it wasn't loud. It was painful. It was unacceptably loud. And I don't believe they're supposed to be allowed to fly over a populated area the way they do, at the altitude they do. And I'm thinking calling the air base is not going to do us any good. So if somebody here in government contacts the governor's office and lets them know that they should contact the air base, maybe something could be done. But in the past, they dropped flares, started fires, broken windows. They've gotten away with it all. And they've been flying over regularly, but this last Friday was loud enough to cause pain. It was really loud. So I thought I should come down and report that and see what you can do on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, JB.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we'll get the gentleman's contact information and just take a look at what if we can get any feedback on that. Okay.
Thank you, JB.
You need anything further from me?
No, they'll get a hold.
Thank you.
Wait, nothing else on this?
No, other than we do have a community cleanup days. So, what's that? Oh, October 13th, 14th, and 15th.
Yeah, I had the dates. Do you have the location of the canisters where they're gonna place them? Is it on that flyer?
Oh. There's be conveniently located at multiple spots around the globe. 1316 North Broad Street, east of Multitech, behind the TP next to the Globe Public Library, and next to the dog park closest to North Street and west of North Street, and then west of 1905 East Maple Street, the Samaritan Veterinarian Clinic.
to support location then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that'd be the, so 1316 Broad Street, TP, Dog Park, and Maple Street, 1905. Okay. I was wondering why they handled that. I mean, now I know.
Thank you. So we'll go to special presentations, and we have a presentation to council by staff to discuss major water project. We have Luis presenting.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, members of council, Luis is leading the charge on this, although we'll be tag teaming with many people. But Luis, you can go ahead and jump up there. He's going to start going through the PowerPoint. We also, I'll be adding some stuff in. Paul Hendricks is here to add some stuff, some material to a slide. Vince Mariscal is here for a slide. And then we also have Tina Allen and Dennis Osich on as representing the financial side, the finance department. And so it's pretty comprehensive, but at any point you have questions, and it's detailed and it's a lot going on. So it may take a little while to really get it all explained. So Luis, do you want to shoot it off?
Good evening, Mr. Major and members of council.
And Luis, pull that microphone close to you and make sure it's pointing that. There you go. A little bit higher.
Right.
Just there you go. Aim it there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the one that's gonna be presenting, but this is a team effort, and different people is gonna be jumping in to explain, a different part of the presentation. But overall, I'm gonna be talking about it. We can move to the next slide there. This is, one of them projects is for the WIPA loan program application. This is to apply for $2 million for water loans. And the primary projects to be requested are $700,000 for the Army Corps 595 program project match, $1 million enhancing well capacity to support city wellfield sustainability. And this is, something that Paul might be able to, explain better. It is in the next slide, but I'm just gonna keep going here. 300,000 groundwater assessment and mitigation to support city wellfield sustainability. 250, this is reserve projects. These are projects that, they're on the list, but they're not, kind of like on top of the list. And, we can get them done, then, we'll go down the line. $250,000 Central Avenue water line replacement conservation, $150,000 disinfection, enhancement, and automation, $200,000 Apache water storage tank and booster, $1,400,000 Fairgrounds water storage tank and booster. And then here's where, we're gonna be talking about the city wellfield sustainability, and I'm gonna pass it on to
Luis, a question on the $2 million, is there forgivable on that $2 million amount that we don't?
I understand there is forgivable, but I
We
couldn't
don't
tell you
have
how much.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, it kind of depends on what we asked for and how they rate it. With this presentation is going to lead into tonight. Our first action will be to permission to or approval of the application to apply. After that, there'll be adoption of the loan. And at that point, I think we'll have a hard list of projects that are included in there. And then we even have the loan terms and agreements. So this is early on in the process, and Paul can probably better answer. Paul, at what point do they decide the forgivables?
That'll be in December, before you have to finalize your commitment to the loan. But they go through a process of scoring you, giving you different points for compliance, water quality. Drought is going to get some extra points. In the past, the city on a $5 million WIPA has gotten as much as $3 million. In the last clean water, that is wastewater, 2 million, we got 400,000. And so it's quite variable, but they've indicated that there are funds out there for that. So
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Paul, just to interrupt real quick, this is the first time that I believe that we've applied for water WIFA loans. Traditionally, we've been all sewer loans. Is that correct, Paul?
Our first three were water, then we did a wastewater.
Oh, then we
or
did,
clean
okay.
water.
Okay,
It's kind of confusing because they call sewer clean water.
yeah.
They call water water.
So that was a 60 project. Okay, so this first time water since I've been here.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, so we've tried to break down a little bit of information and details of what would be involved. We're trying to really enhance well capacity and deal with drought. And really look at assessment of your assets and what kind of steps can we take that would mitigate a problem. In the well field, you want to stay 5-10 years away from a problem. And as the water levels get drawn down through drought, you can get into all kinds of problems. So we'll be doing actual field hydrologic testing with crews out there, pulling equipment out, looking at that equipment, testing the casing for condition, feasibility for deepening the wells. We already have, say, an 800 or 1,000-foot well, and it's a pretty good size. And the feasibility of just punching out the bottom and putting a smaller casing down the last 400 or 500 feet, and then setting your well deeper and being able to draw the water from a deeper level can extend the life. If that doesn't work, then planning for and budgeting for replacement wells. We'll be doing mechanical cleaning. We'll be looking at upgrading the performance and efficiency of the pumps, putting in equipment that's going to match the water production capacity of the well now. Because what happens is you put in a new well, you have a certain production, you put that pump and motor on there, and then as the water level goes down, it comes off of the efficiency. And so we get benefit by matching the pump size and the motor size to exactly how much water that well will yield. And so we'll have some benefits there. And then field testing and analyzing well that's called the Alicio well. It's kind of a well field that some people believe is outside of our commitment under the San Carlos settlement. And historically, we've seen some parameters of concern there that would require wellhead treatment. In the old days, it was right at the limit. As they lowered the limit for higher quality of water, the determination was made to no longer use that well. Well, the casing's there and the wellhead is there. The equipment is not there. And so we'd have to go in and do some field testing, actual work, not just pencil study kind of research, but we could go to actual pilot testing and some field work from that standpoint. And then we want to really get enough information that we can look 50 years ahead for this well field and for your lifeblood for the community. And then out of that is going to come the information that we can use then for a real asset management system that would look at short, medium, and long-term asset life and the capital replacement requirements associated with that. As part of the rate study that's ongoing now, staff got together as a team and put together a summary of life of current assets out in the system. That'll be rolled into the rate and then we'll go from there.
Randall?
I just have a couple of questions real quick. One is, do we do it just for the city limits or the water service area? Because I know that our service area is larger than our city limits, or outside of, like some of it's outside of our city limits.
What we look at for this particular money is we look at what is the capability of the well system and the groundwater that we know exists. There's some wells inside the city that are small wells. If we have enough money, we'll look at those. You can see the reserve project list allows us, under the WIFA requirements, if we have it on the reserve project, if for some reason we don't spend all the money in the primary project, we don't have to go clear through the whole process, start from scratch, if we want to use the remaining amount of money for some of these other reserve projects. And so, if we have enough funds, we certainly would look a little bit farther out.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, one other issue or thing that with the reserve projects, sometimes we'll set aside money for primary projects, but then we find other sources of funding. And so we'll fund them, maybe a grant or something else that works out, partnership. And so that allows those other projects to bring up on the list, again, without going through the whole process again. It gives you kind of a snapshot into the future.
Thank you. Yeah, and the next slide, please. Then we're gonna talk about these upcoming projects. There is two projects that, we are really interested in taking over. And one is gonna be funded through WIPA Water Conservation Grant. We already applied for this grant. We requested permission to apply, a couple of months ago. And we feel that we have a pretty good chance to get this money. For this one, we're talking about replacing the water meters that are in use right now. They are getting to the end of their useful life. We were thinking in conducting a meter audit first to figure out which ones we would need to be replaced first and second, and go from there, and to see if they were working properly. But because of the age of the meters, we know that pretty soon we're not gonna have to be replacing them anyways. They're at 8, 9 years old, so we're gonna have to replace them. So we thought that by replacing them, we would save the money for the meter audit. It could be used towards this replacement of these water meters. And at the same time, also, there is a requirement by ADQ that we need to assess what kind of pipe we have at the meters going into the residential areas, and to see if there's leak, if it's comfort, and we will have to pay for that to make that inventory. So by replacing the meters, we are able to assess what kind of pipe we have there, and at the same time, we can have a better inventory of the meters and when they went into place, and so we have a better data after all. So we're thinking here that we're gonna be replacing 3,299 AMR meters, which stand for automatic meter reading, and we're gonna go into AMI, which stands for Advanced Meter Infrastructure. So as I said, we will be conducting meter inventory that is required by ADQ, and we also have two main water lines replacements, one on 4th Street and one on Daybreak Drive. And this will allow us also to upgrade our water billing system. That's the project that we're trying to fund through this WIPA grant. And then we have the courts of engineers.
Question on that one?
Yep.
We're saying it's a 2-year project then?
It'll be at least 2 years. It could go beyond, but at least 2 years.
When we talk about the match from the city, which is says right here, 750,000.
Right.
Is that paid in the first year, or is that split 2
And
years?
we have a slide on that. This is kind of the overview, and then Luis is going to go through each project, and then at the very end, we're going to talk about how we're going to fund the matches. So that is the big question. How do we fund those matches? And so we have that built into the tail end of the slide presentation, and we'll get Tina and Dennis involved on that.
Okay, so for this first project, it's actually a program because we're gonna be, we're gonna build it in 6 phases. And, that's why we call it a program. We're looking for an award of $3 million with a match of $150,000. And we're thinking that it's gonna take 2 years, could be a little more. Then on the Army Corps 595 program, this is for the fairgrounds waterline project. This one I have broken down into 4 phases, and with the money that we can request right now, which is total 2.8 million, we are gonna be able to complete 2 phases. The first phase is the replacement of 145 miles of 12-inch water main from Ada to Apache Peaks, and phase 2, it'll go from the Apache Peaks to the fairgrounds entrance. That will be the first 2 phases. We can, build with this 2.8 million. It's the total for the project. Now, we would like to talk a little about the difference between AMR meters and AMR meters. This is
Mayor,
help me with that.
Apache Peaks is San Carlos Drive, right? That
Yes.
little area right there?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, just here to talk a little bit about AMR meters versus AMI meters. We kind of give you the definitions of the different types of meters. AMI meters, they're new stuff, they're fairly new. They communicate to the city using cell towers provided by the company there. They'll be delivering real-time data to the billing office, which would give us alerts on water leaks and water usage and help be more proactive in finding these instead of reactive, these water leaks, which would help conserve water. AMI meters, they won't require us to go out meter reading every once a month. Like I said, real data will be coming next, so whenever they want to start the billing process, they download the files and then that's what they do there. And it'll also allow the customer to track their water usage. There'll be some offer a portal that they have or an app that they can use. They'll see their water usage. If they have a large bill, they can see exactly what day and what time they had a spike in water usage, and so it's very customer friendly. They told us so. Broken on that, there's a little picture there. You can see it's kind of what AMR does and what AMI does, and how it kind of attacks both of them all at the same time. And we're pretty excited about getting these new ones. We've heard some issues here and there, but we're hoping that we pick the right product for what fits our community.
Yes, you go.
With AMI meters, it says it has customer services. It's going to be customer service like right away disposal has, or is this going to be customer service through our water department?
Through our water department.
Okay. So if all of those questions can be answered through our water department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fernando?
So will it have a mechanical backup? So let's just, because some people don't trust computers.
Right.
So we're supposed to believe that all this water came through our meter,
Right.
and all there is some computer saying it did. Is there a mechanical digital?
Yeah.
thing in there?
Let's say that there's still going to be a number that we can go read and look at that.
So there's a dispute, we can
Correct.
verify yes or no.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, that the one of the primary focuses and goals of council is water conservation. This both accomplishes that and the fact that people won't go 20 days learning that they got a sprinkler leak. They can see the change, it can set alerts, but people can who really like to track this and monitor, they can have, instead of going, okay, I'm going to run the sprinklers, 3 times a week and then find out it blows up your bill. You can find out within a week or within a short amount of time that the impact and customer service, when we have to tell them they have this gigantic bill and something went wrong, it's going to help in many ways, but the conservation along with the customer service, and it's the whole billing system that's going to change that. So it's a neat advancement, and I think customers will be happy and we will be happy.
Thank you.
How did Jody feel about this?
And she's good as long as we didn't make her come up and present. She was-
Yeah, and there's also another benefit because those old meters, don't really register all the water that goes through. And as they were out, they become kind of like faulty and they really don't detect all the water that's going through the meter. And so this is gonna help city to be more accurate in the billing, and people is gonna really find out how much they're spending in water, and that's also gonna help us for them to know that they need to kind of like take care of their water.
And-
And the meters, they detect leaks before the meeting in the city side and after the meeting. So it's really something that the city can use for repairs and detect leaks on our web. Let the customer know that there's a leak on their side.
Just because.
Luis, in replacing these meters, I anticipate it'll be a rollout phase in each district.
Yes.
And how long will residents be without water while we replace these meters?
Well, when we say that we're gonna go in 6 phases and we're trying to break it into 6 districts, we're not gonna shut the water in one district at one time. Even when we're working in one district, it's gonna be sections.
Right.
As much as we can do it in one day or something like that. So we shut the valves and we replace as many as we can during the day. And if we need to go back to the same area the next day, we shut again and replace it. So as we go, people, they're gonna have to, kind of work with us and understand that we, improving the meters. And they might need to, just give us 4 or 5 hours a day or something. We'll try to reduce it as much as possible. But there is certain inconvenience that, we cannot really avoid it. That we're gonna try to do it in stages so we don't, leave a big area without water.
Will this be our staff doing it, or we have to contact?
No. This is gonna be a contractor doing the installations, and it's part of the cost. So we have the cost broken down into the actual cost of the meters, the installation of the meters, and there are certain fees for the service, on an annual basis.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Luis, we talked today about the age of our meters and what happens when they hit their life cycle span. Do you want to explain to council where we were heading before this grant opportunity? We were gonna have to address our meter anyway.
Yeah, we were gonna, as I said, we were gonna have to do the meter audit anyway, and then decide which one needed to be replaced, and then kind of like go little by little, and sometimes probably we wouldn't have the time to detect the problem until it fails, But if we go this way, we are still within the end of the useful life of the meters. So we think that in 2 years, we're gonna be able to replace them and not having major problems, with the customers.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, one thing I've learned about dealing with water meters, they always, if they break, they run slow and count less water.
Yes.
They never break and count more water. So this will get rid of us having to have a meter, a full-time meter reader and a backup, because they'll just phone home. And I'll keep up with the technology with our neighboring water company.
Right, in my office, it's inside the meter, there's this little kind of like a little propeller, looks like it. And as it speeds and the water goes through it, it just kind of works out. And then it's been slower and slower, and then that's what I'm saying, you don't capture all the water that is going through it. So we're losing money there.
Go ahead and hit next thing.
Now, going into the stages of the WIFA grant, on September 25th, the WIFA grant committee recommended approval by the WIFA board for this grant. Okay, so that was on September 25th. On October 18th, there's going to be this possible WIFA board approval. That's when the board is going to see the recommendations, their more projects that are gonna be recommended for funding, but ours is one of them, you know. I mean, they had, I don't know if it was like about 30 projects, and ours, and the way we presented it, is qualified for the recommendation to give to the grant. And then there are a bunch of them that they just, you know, are at the game, but we are not, so we are in the game. Okay, and then on November 17th, we're gonna be receiving, or somewhere around November 17th, we should be receiving an award letter and the grant agreement. And by December the 12th, we're gonna come and ask the council for approval to solicit the bids for meter and water lines replacements. You know, so we're planning on having this in place by December, after all the signatures, and be able to put it out for bid.
They moved the October 18th one to like the 4th or something like that, so it's,
On November the 4th?
yeah,
Oh,
they moved it back a couple weeks. So
oh, okay.
I think there's a bunch of conflicts on it.
I don't think we received notification of that.
I'll check.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. Right. Now we're gonna talk about how this grant works. This is different in a way because normally when you apply for a grant and it's approved, you need to, you know, show that you have the match, and then you get the money, it goes into your account, and then you start, you know, working on your project. This one is different because we have to pay the contractor, as it says here. And then after we pay the contractor, we submit the invoice to WIFA for a reimbursement. Then we get reimbursed within 30 days. But the reimbursement is for the 75%. So that means that right there, we've contributed our 25% match. And as we go, you know, we contribute that 25%.
The next one.
Question on, you're talking
Any
about
questions
these,
on that?
yeah, then we'll have to allocate or designate $2 million to be able to pay our vendors prior to this, or?
No,
No, if you look at the next slide, you're gonna see, because we're going per district. So
Yeah.
we don't need to have all the money up front. But as we go, we need to be able to pay the vendor and then submit our invoice to WIFA.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we had that exact same conversation about 2 hours ago just to do that. And when we get to Dennis and Tina, Dennis can explain how that works. It's different than we've done before, although the WIFA loan items, we go ahead and we pay, we do the same thing, we get reimbursed, we pay it, and then we get fully reimbursed with that. But we will explain before the presentation's over. But I think
The date was switched to November 2nd.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. So yeah, and that's why it's broken down into you know, different phases. I call them districts because it's easier to understand that we're gonna be working, you know, one district at a time. And that's why it's shown like that. But it's 6 phases. And then we're gonna have time to talk about how you know, we needed and allocated, and that's our money. Okay. Now talking about the Army Corps 595 program, these are the stages or the milestones. You see, NFS acknowledges model PPA, October 2023. This is this month. All we need to do is say, yeah, we're willing, you know, to get into this PPA. And then by February 2024, that's when it's gonna be executed. That's when, you know, it's gonna be approved basically. And, after that, we go to work. And here's where we start, kind of like the project. We put out, the bid for design. We paid a consultant, and we paid the designer. We submit the invoice, get the invoice. And, as we go. There's a slide, the next one. That says pretty much the same, process that we were talking about when, we were talking about WIFA. It's the same process. We pay the vendors, contractors, and then we submit the invoice and we get the money back. Now, there's one thing that we were talking earlier also, is that in this case, because we're gonna be submitting these invoices for reimbursement, we need to pay the contractor right away. As soon as we get the invoice, we cannot wait the 30 days that we normally wait to make the payment, because we need to submit the invoice right away. And we are the ones that are gonna be waiting 30 days to get the reimbursement. So, this in a way changes how we move the money.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, actually, well, you don't have to. One of the nuances of this core project is that it requires an environmental study, environmental submission. They do a NEPA, and I backed up. I kind of messed up your slides, but that's the only thing that one of the things that's unique that you haven't seen before is us having to do a NEPA study to make sure that we're not hurting the environment, because it is federal money.
Duncan, just asking about the financial damage to the vendor right away. Our process does take the 30 days, so we'll change that through our finance. That's possible to get that done right away.
Yeah, no, we've already kind of gamed out the process where what line items the money will come from, and the turnaround. We need to be very good at tracking these funds and making sure the most important thing is that we get the reimbursement, that we get the money back into the bucket that we're paying out. It's, as Dennis will explain, it's a cash flow scenario, just making sure that we track that and that the money goes out, invoices go out, the payment comes in, and we're keeping that loop going.
Yeah, and when talking about this environmental compliance with NEPA, I found in NEPA regulations 2 articles that I think that we can use, and I included them in the application, because we might not need to go full blown with the environmental study, because it's a replacement. We are replacing a water line, so we are not going to be creating any damage to the habitat or causing any problems for humanity, let's say. So there is 2 articles there. Of course, we need to apply, we need to go through the process, but if we use those 2 articles, more likely, because it's a replacement, we're going to be just removing one pipe, putting the other one right in the same place. We're not really destroying anything. So we have a good chance to get these 2 articles to be applied to our applications. And that will save us money. Okay, so then again, see, for example here, we have design 150,000. We can go into the environmental compliance at the same time, 35,000. And working on per meter, then 15,000. We need that money to start. And then we get 112, 36, and 11,000, and we contribute the numbers that are right. And as we go, we do the same. So as Paul was saying, they're going to be able to explain how this cash flow needs to work. So we have that cash available to pay and
So Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm going to pick it up here. We have 2 very similar projects. We have the Core 595, and we have the WIFA Water Conservation Grant project. The first one I want to talk about is the WIFA, and that's the slide we have here. But between the two projects, they're going to be coming from different sources for the match. Now, the difficulty here is we're still sorting through our finances and making sure that everything is where we expect it to be. And we'd love to wait for that, but these opportunities are here now. We're going to show you two concrete sources for matches that we'd like to dedicate at this point so we can make sure that we go forward in accepting these two projects. But these are 2-year projects and things may change as we find out more information and as the things go on. So we'll game out alternatives. But for right now, to give you the comfort that we and to sign on the bottom line and say we can accept these grants and have the match, I want to show you the two concrete match sources, and then we'll get into alternatives. So for the meter match, this is the WIFA $750,000 that we will need to contribute to the $3 million project. We are looking to pull the match out of our Securing Future Water funds. The water fund balance in that right now is 1.3 million. Okay, now this is a fund that was passed and dedicated in an ordinance in 1992. It started out as $1 per user per month and was set there aside for cost. This is the wording from the ordinance that we put in the packet. Costs related to securing water supply for customers. So securing water supply, we've called it Securing Future Water, but the idea is we need to make sure that we have water for everybody. The AMI meter system will reduce water usage and enhance the conservation. And so we believe with putting this in there, we will count the water we have. We will be able to notify people before these leaks happen. We'll be able to have better control of the product that we sell. Water is a product that we sell through the enterprise. And then these are tools that both we and the consumer, the customer, can use to help conserve the water. Real-time information. When you see that, that you start to run the sprinklers and 2 days later your bill's going up incrementally, you're like, wait a minute, we can figure out a way. So we believe, talking to Bill Sims, our attorney, talking to everyone, this is a water conservation program. Using less water today means we will have more water for the future, and therefore qualifies under the intent of the council when 1992, when they said these funds would be used for securing future water supply. The less we pump, the more we have for the future. Tonight, we're going to ask council to dedicate $750,000 out of that 1.3 to be used as a match. Right? We don't want to go forward with accepting this meter match, a grant, if we can't tell you where we're going to pay this money. Now, we also have offsets. We can bill Louisa's salary and different costs, and we have future revenues. We're doing a revenue study, so the revenues may be increasing, and we can use that. Or we can find that there's a better place to find this water. At this point, I wanted to look to either Tina or Dennis. You've been hearing the conversation and some of the questions by the mayor. And so are Tina and Dennis, are you guys there?
I'm here.
Okay. Dennis, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. So Dennis can talk about how we turn this around, and Tina can talk about the fact that this money is in the budget and we will separate out for a 2-year process. Tina, you said that we're going to put this money in a separate line item and then track it over the 2 years?
Right, it's got an accounting code for securing future water, but I would just put 2 lines for the same accounting code, and one would have the balance, the 630,000 and 23,000, that's the difference. And you'd have another line that said 750,000 grant for water conservation match. Budget, you'd see it in the budget fiscal year 25, and then you'd see when the money in 24 because the money is appropriated, so if you're in fiscal year 24, that money is available. In the future years, I would just recommend just a second line item, so you could call it out in your budget and see it pretty clearly.
And then Dennis, we don't have to put 3 million in an account to run this. You call this a cash flow management situation?
Correct, yeah. I know one of the questions that came up was, since we are paying the vendors and being reimbursed, do we have to have this money up front? And the answer to that is no. The only portion that's being designated right now is the matching portion. And as Paul had mentioned, we want to make sure that we've got the money set aside specifically for that. It's not used for anything else. For the reimbursable portion, it's really more of a cash flow matter. So the project's going to be about a 2-year project. You're not going to have a $3 million outlay right off the bat. Rather, over this 2-year period, you're going to have certain outlays every single month related to the grant. The grant will be reimbursed every month, and it's basically a 30-day lag. So you're talking about a piece of the $3 million, and you've got a 30-day lag that you're going to be reimbursed. So really, it's not a fund balance issue because you're spending the money and you're getting it right back. It's more a cash flow issue to ensure that you've got the cash flow available month to month, looking at it holistically as far as $3 million.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, vendors want to get paid. They're not going to sit on $500,000 worth of work without submitting an invoice, and we're going to be thrilled to pay them. And we even talked about, like say, Luis and I talked about putting it in the contracts that there's a billing cycle and that we don't go deep into it. So.
Just a question on it, yeah, so I guess maybe the public understand, this is enterprise money, right?
This is all enterprise coming from fees.
It has nothing to do with our fund balance, our restricted fund balance. This is enterprise money that's set aside that can only be used for certain, like water.
Right. I mean, if you think of it, we run a small, well, not even a small, but a substantial water and wastewater enterprise, a business. And we have costs, and we figure out the cost. We charge the rates based on that cost, and we have to manage within those. But it's not the general taxpayer dollars. It's all the users that pay this. Now, many of our users are outside the city, but in the county, but they're still users, and they pay their water bill and the fees there, and so they're helping to support that also. So this is a user pay. If you're on the City of Globe water system, then you're going to be part of this. We have, I think, 660 homes that use an outside vendor, and they won't be part of this.
So when WIPA does their applications, one of the things that they look at is that you're charging 1.2 times what it costs you to produce that. And that way they're seeing that you're generating enough revenue to cover a problem. And so they'll reevaluate us and tell us whether or not we have to change our rate.
So that's huge for our residents to know we need to maintain that ratio.
Right.
To qualify for this.
And if you don't, then you don't qualify for the forgiveness. And so it actually saves us money by being able to qualify for that.
And so we, during the pandemic, we were on track prior to the pandemic to do a water rate study and look at our fees. We were about 2 years behind on that. We know that the cost of everything has gone up. We are in the middle of and just submitted all our data and having a rate study come forward, and then we'll bring that back and council will evaluate that and make the recommendations from there. But that'll be key to making sure we hit that 1.2 and making sure this is all viable.
What you're talking about now is about the loan.
Right.
So, but we kind of jump into the loan, but we're talking about the grant.
Well,
the cash flow.
Right. Well, we've kind of gone back and forth. Yeah. Got to stay agile here. So, Mayor, what does that help? Okay? But we will be looking at our rates, and so your starting point was, what do the people of Globe need to know about this? This is the way that we maintain that we are providing top quality water and sewer services, that we stay ahead of the curve, that we make sure that it's reliable, that and everything is always safe, and just make sure that we keep our standards and plan for the future. One of the things you saw in everything that Paul Hendricks was putting together is a way for us to get up to speed on do those metrics and measurements, both so we know how we can better plan for the future and be more proactive, and also have all that data so we can better utilize additional funds that may be available, who knows, in the future. You got to have those hydrology studies. You got to have all that information about the wells and everything like that. When you look at Arizona Water, and they have a very extensive research and testing and 5-year plan, a 10-year plan for how they're going to fund all this. We're getting to that level where we're trying to be more sophisticated about sketching out the needs, and then not be, have a rate schedule that mirrors the cost and is manageable, and not like, nothing and then everything, and, not jittery, but just responsive to the cost. Unlike and it's not fair to say that, but we're not here to make a profit. We're here to charge rates that maintain an outstanding system. That is our goal, to provide public value in water and wastewater, and we will do the things, collect the fees. But boy, when we can get in this case over $5 million, and at $3 for every one that we spend to invest in our system, these are opportunities that are coming all right now that we can't turn away, even though we're recovering from getting caught up on our finances and making sure in the right spot. We could hunker down and wait for that, but these opportunities are too key, and we think that being transparent, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, and it's up to council to say, do we have enough information to go forward with taking on these commitments? And that's a question that I posed to Tina and Dennis, and they'll tell you that there's still some question marks out there, but we're getting the question marks more and more narrow. Dennis or Tina, do you want to talk about kind of where we're at on how close we are to getting 22 and 23 finished off?
Yeah, Paul, before I do that too, and Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the WIFA loan, WIFA had said that those funds can be used as matching, right?
No, we're using the WIFA loans for matching for the 595 core grant, not for the WIFA water conservation loan.
Okay. And the plus to being able to use that WIFA grant, the WIFA loan for the 595 matching is, and if you get a forgivable portion related to that, is ultimately addressing that cash flow issue for your matching portion as well as the grant itself. And if you do get a really pays for the cost of financing that loan as well. So that's an advantage, and that cash flow piece really spreads that out. And as Paul had mentioned, as far as getting caught up on everything, so where we're at for the 2022, I think we're getting very close to getting the 2022 auditors in, so that audit wrapped up. We are getting pretty much caught up on all of the bank reconciliations, and this was one of the big things that we really pushed for, especially before today's meeting, so that we had a good idea of where we were at and if there was anything that we didn't see in the GL that could have an impact on this. And the fortunate thing is we did find some additional revenues that need to be recorded, so that actually helps the matter as well. Those are general fund money, and I know we're talking about water, but my biggest piece of how we go about doing the matching and reimbursement requests is cash flow. And there's options. Yes, we want to use only water funds. There are options though in the short term to be able to borrow from other funds, which does not affect fund balance of the other funds. It's simply a short-term borrowing between funds just for cash flow purposes. And so that's where I was at as far as getting the bank reconciliations up to date, an idea of where we at in a cash position to see that not only that there's that fund balance that Tina had mentioned that's available so that we can dedicate the matching portion out of the water fund because it is for a water project, but also to ensure that there is cash available should there be a need for any type of short-term borrowing, since there is that 30-day lag as well.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, the last slide shows the system for the 595 match, or the 595 match, which is, and if you remember, that was Representative Stanton gave us those 3 projects. One was the tank, which we had to do in an emergency, and so the Corps and the Congressman's office let us combine those into the 2.1, and that's how we're getting this first phase. But most big federal grants like this require a 25% match. And so for this match, we're not looking at future water supply, because this is replacement of a water line that every time the weather changes, hot to cold, it flexes and breaks. And this is it's been problematic and needs replacement. And so with this one, we're looking at our WIFA loan to dedicate $700,000 out of our WIFA loan to hold for the match on the Core 595 project. And so this is where it gets kind of confusing, but so we have 2 similar grants, one for water line, one for meter conservation. The meter conservation will go from future water money, and the water line replacement the match will come from the WIFA loan. Both of these don't, like say, they're 2-year projects. Again, especially with the WIFA loan, if there's a better option, if we have more rates, fees coming in, if the offsets or the in-kind matches, we can adjust these as we need to. But I want to make sure that council knows that if we say yes to these, we have money to match these. If we can find a better solution towards the end, then we'll do other ways of matching these. But even on these funds, when we go to ask you to vote on these, if we don't use them all, then we tell council we want to release them, put them back in the fund balance, and they fill up. If we suspect that there'll be probably $100,000 in fees just for Luis and different engineering and administrative stuff that we possibly could bill and lower that match with in-kind contribution. So there's a lot to pan out as these go through the process. But this is this initial meeting to you where we are very positive on getting both of these. And this is where we need council, only council can make these commitments for these matches and make sure we're going forward. Before we accept these, we need to know that the council's on board and understands, that these issues that are out there.
Any comments?
You want to go to the questions then? Yeah. This is Shadows of Jerry here. And so if with this presentation, we'll do consent, and then we'll come back and ask you to take specific action on all 3 of these items. And so then if you think of questions between now and then all of these, this is not the first time you'll see these. 2 of these will come back in 2 weeks. Many of these have options where you can, especially the WIFA loan, where we can change that up. You're not spending this money tonight. This is the first discussion of possible multiple discussions we'll have. So don't feel that you gotta, staff is hoping that you feel comfortable with the presentation enough to move this project forward. And as we get more information, if you have questions we need to respond to, if you want to know more, we'll find out more information as we get closer. And so this is the first round of discussions about this. It's a lot in one night, but this is not the last time you'll see any of this. And it's not you're signing on the bottom line right now.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you for your presentation. Everybody that spoke up, there was obviously a lot of information and a lot to dive into. I'm glad that we're being asked to maybe take a look at this another time, and will give us a little more time to look at this. I just wrote some quick notes as the conversation was going on, and I'm not going to go in any particular order, but just some of the things that that I'm concerned about. You know, I'm a firm believer in water infrastructure and facilities and quality of life and all that goes with that. You know, I think we're all on board with that. But in tonight's presentation, we're talking about $7.1 million. Just right off the bat. 3 projects, $7.1 million. And if it's 25% forgivable on all 3, if it is, you know, we're looking at not just what, and again, I'm being hypothetical, okay? And you can correct me, okay? But if it were 25% forgivable across the board, you know, I don't want us to go off track thinking, wow, we're getting $7.1 million and a lot of it's gonna be forgivable, or, you know, we're not gonna have to pay it all back. But if that was true, $7.1 million and it's 25% forgivable, we're looking at $1,800,000 that we would have to pay back. And so I get there's payback mechanisms, and I get that, and I really appreciate that you have found ways to pay that back, not from the general fund, but from our, you know, from our water, what do you call it, the enterprise funds, which is how really this business should run, right? You earn money from meters, and you put that money right back into your system. That's building.
Let's remember that we're talking here about 2 grants and 1 loan. The only one that's got the forgivable is the loan. The other 2 are grants. What happens?
Matching grants.
Yeah, but what happens is that this case is the money we spend it and then it get reimbursed. So what we really are gonna be contributing is $750,000 in one project and $700,000 in the other one. That's gonna be our match.
Right.
And that's it. Now, the loan is a little different, because that one we need to pay back. But once with the grants, once we're done with the project, we don't owe anything.
Okay, so
You know.
when we talk about match, where's the money coming from?
So the match for the WIFA water conservation grants is coming out of our money that we hold in our budget, the 750 out of the $1.3 million water for future
Which is
water.
enterprise.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not.
So that one's coming out of our pocket.
Right. And that's my point.
Yep.
The point is I appreciate that you found ways to figure out how to pay for that.
Yep.
And a lot of that is coming through enterprise
Mm-hmm.
funds. So, you know, I'm not knocking this. I'm just, what I'm trying to say here is what I want to say is we have other projects that we have dedicated ourselves to. And I'll give you one, a fire station. All right. Now, what I don't want us to get into a position where we have kind of maxed out ourselves, and now when it comes time for a project like a fire station or some other project that we've already committed to through our SAP or whatever it might be,
yeah.
now we're kind of scrambling for that. I trust that we have great eyes on our accounts, okay? So I just don't want us to lose focus on that, okay? That it's big money, but there's money that we also still have to pay for this. I mean, we have to make it happen through our resources as well. And yeah, it's a percentage, it's a small percentage of the whole amount. I'm good with that. I just don't want us to get roped into a situation where we're strapped. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Rios, first off, just so we know, this is all enterprise money. Any debt we incur on the enterprise side would be paid back from enterprise funds and would not touch the general fund. The financing of the fire department building is general funds and is a whole nother section of the budget. So they wouldn't cross over unless there was unless we allowed it to cross over, and I don't see that happening. Now, and then I see three things: making sure, number one, we protect the general funds, which we're committed to. Number two are this water line that we've historically had problems, and the conservation we need. Is it worthy of these matches? And then number three, where do we get the match? Tina, I know you have the budget in front of you. In the water budget right now, what kind of funds do we have left in the if we just were going to pay the 700,000 straight out of water? Do we have that now
Fund balance, you mean?
in the fund balance? Yes, for enterprise water.
Enterprise water the bulk of it is sitting in that secure future water. There's about 555,000 in contingency there. That's the only additional money. There would not be enough, if that's what you're asking, is there enough contingency to just spend it? No. The good news is that I did just a quick look at, a relook of 22 and 23, and I do think we picked up about another 120,000 in fund balance there. So that was good news.
So
It's not, I'd like to see the 22 audit complete and better run at 23 numbers, but so far what I'm seeing right now is favorable.
But correct me if I'm wrong, that $1 that we take out is dedicated funds for the conservation and future.
And
we feel that this so that money isn't available to spend it for anything. It has
No.
to be used for that.
it would be, yeah, the replacement of a maintenance of a water line, I don't believe would fall under the category of future. That's a maintenance of existing line. It's going to stop leaks, of course, but you're assuming that it just doesn't fit as neatly, and I would not recommend we use that water for water line replacement. But like I said, we
couldn't use it by a 4x4 truck or that.
Yeah. So, but that because this is a 2-year project, and because we have things coming down the road, we could, and I know it's uncomfortable, lock in and dedicate that 700,000 in the WIFA loan, but beat the bushes really hard and search high and low and see if we can swing it without using the full amount, if any of the amount. And so if that's your marching orders, that's fine. Now I would feel uncomfortable saying we're going to go forward with the 595 without at this point dedicating something for the match. And we could say, well, we have 500,000 sitting in the as fund balance and dedicate that and be 200,000 short. We could do it that way, but it's council's preference. But if council wants to say we're not going to borrow money to pay the match now, and I will say I had this conversation with Dennis, and Dennis doesn't have that much heartburn with it. So I was surprised too. So if I'm gonna, Dennis, do you want to share with what you shared with me about the pros and cons of using WIFA loan money to match?
Yeah, I mean, so really the pros of it goes back to the cash flow issue, because we're talking about doing a 2-year project, which means that whatever match you have to do, you gotta spend all that money within a 2-year period. What the loan allows you to do is really, if you're concerned about cash flow, it's going to spread out your matching portion really over the term of the loan, whether that's 10 or 20 years. And then going back to the idea of if you have a forgivable portion of that loan, that forgivable portion really pays for the cost of that loan. So the interest that you're paying, it's really covering the interest on it. So it's almost, when you take into account the forgivable portion, it's almost like an interest-free loan over a 10 to 20 year period. So you're able to spread out that cash flow over that time period. Obviously, you're creating debt that does have to be paid down over a period of time by the water funds. But in my opinion, I think there's more pros to looking at it from a cash flow standpoint, because most times either there is zero penalty for prepaying the loan, which means paying it off, or after a certain period of time, that any type of prepayment penalty would go away. These WIFA loans generally don't have any type of prepayment penalty related to it.
Thank you for that. I have some follow-ups. What is the payback term? Do you know? WIFA loans?
Paul?
WIFA loan, 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
20, but you can go further if you need to, but most of them are 20.
Okay. Well, that kind of helps ease the pain, right?
What's the interest rate on those in the 1 year term?
It's close to 3.5, I think, but, you know, it includes, interest and the fees. So it's one number, but it is included there.
Okay, if I can continue on here. Believe me, I'm not trying to be Freddie down.
No,
Okay?
No. We'll call you fiscal Freddie. So,
Related to the meters, I'm a firm believer in that. That, you know, meters is a key fundamental resource for any utility company, not just the city. You know, we're spending all this time and money and effort on resources to pump that water out of the ground, take it through its pumping mechanisms, take it through its treatment, its storage, deliveries, boosters, all the way to the customer's meter, and then we lose water there because the meters are malfunctioning. That in itself is water loss. That is, it's a double whammy. You lose all that resources, the time and money that you put into it, and you don't capture it at the meter. You don't capture it at the cash register. It leaks through. So I'm a firm believer in a meter change-out program. I really, really am. What I would propose also, that our team get together and not just do this, think about this for this, you know, because it's 8 years. I think we need to plan for the next 10, 15 years so that we're not hit with, and then believe me, in 10, 15 years, there's probably going to be meters out there that we never even heard of. And so it'll be even better, right? The way things are going in that world, they have longer life and they register more accurately when you're using ultrasonic meters. These right now we're using are mechanical meters, so they do fail, they do slow down. So anyway, that's my spill on meters. I firmly appreciate that. A couple more talking points. I'm happy with the movement that the city's making in upgrading infrastructure. We have a 100-year-old system, right? And we're going after it. We're going after it in all ways, meters, water lines, services. I would like to see us implement some sort of water tank rehabilitation schedule. We've already experienced a water tank that cost us dearly and created a situation where we had to scramble. You know, those storage tanks are just as important as the rest of your meters and your fire hydrants and everything else. That is the storage. That is the supply line of our water. So, you know, in that, you know, I'd like to see maybe a system where, you know, we have a repetitive recoating of the interior and exterior, inspections of the metalwork. If we don't keep those tanks coated and water gets to the metal, it's going to deteriorate. Now we're looking at failures of water tanks, not just having to repaint, but a complete rehabilitation. I'm sure some of these tanks are not OSHA standard as well. You know, sometimes we ask our employees to climb those tanks. Are we meeting OSHA standards on tanks? These are just little carrots I'm throwing out there that if we're going to go after our water infrastructure, let's do it all. Let's just not piece it. And again, I'm not laying Freddie Downer. I'm just adding to the excitement. Okay.
That's good.
All right. And so those are just some of the things that I'd like to have more conversation about. If it's in a committee, great. If it's, you know, sidebar, great. If it's in a forum like this, great. But I think these kinds of things would really just help take us to the next, you know, generation or two.
well, in Mr. Mayor, Members of Councilman Rios, I think that in the list of the smaller items that we're putting together in that WIFA loan, some of those tests and studies and things like that are going to get us more information so we can do this more planning. But just you made a comment about OSHA standards in our tanks, and I think John wanted to respond to that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know that there's a lot of information. I want to thank everybody that's actually been involved in this project, so everybody's kind of been quiet. taking it in. But to your point, Councilman Rios, one of the most recent, evaluations we did is where we talked about the San Carlos Drive, the additional tank we have. That actually was that same process where we looked at our Hagen tanks, we processed that, and for our previous infrastructure meetings, that was kind of a way that, a direction that we were wanting to start. So in the last few weeks, actually I'd say almost in the last month, we received a report on that tank, and it has those such items. That in these dollar amounts, it's actually for cost of replacement for the tank, because when we talk about expansion, or we've actually upgraded the facility, and we're looking at that infrastructure that would take for that. So we've done some in this last year's budget, we've done some upgrade to the fencing, the building, the shack house, the minimal, the smaller items. One of those things was the inspection of the tank. They gave us a list of the things that need to be done, and that's exactly to your point, is that there was safety upgrade with their ladder system, the additional opening for the tank where we added on to Hagen tank. So there is that kind of thing. So actually that is a process, so I did want to point that out to you.
Perfect, thank you.
And
So I stand corrected.
Okay.
I serve good morning. And I'll be done. I was quiet the whole time, all right?
Yeah, it's your time to shine.
And the last thing, a couple of the last things, the other thing we really need to, and I think part of what we're talking about here is we got to make sure not just our infrastructure facilities are sound, but our water production for sure, and water quality. There are things coming down the pike on water quality standards that we're gonna have to abide by. So I think maybe we should, if we haven't already, let's try and get ahead on some of those things. And I saw the language already in here. PFAS is one of those constituents that's coming down the pike that EPA is gonna push, and ADEQ. And so, we've gotta be prepared for that. If we gotta do any kind of treatment or mitigation, things like that. So that's just the whole, obviously this whole conversation is my world, right? So, it gets exciting to talk about these kinds of things, because it gives me an opportunity to just, throw some things out there that, words of encouragement and words of, if we're not looking this way, maybe we should look in a direction that way, not totally completely, but at least plant the seed, see what's on the horizon, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the horizon. What are we doing with our future supply, right? I mean, that's what this whole conversation is about. So thank you for that. And the one last thing, because there's so much information, can we get a little more defined breakout on some of these costs, or these projects?
yeah, I think looking at slide 3, which is the city wellfield sustainability, I think that was a breakdown at least on the activities, but let us see if we can ballpark in some additional costs. Again, the 2 of the 3 items, well, all 3 items are not going to be set in stone for a while, but we definitely can look at a menu of those and see what the costs are, and give you a little bit broader picture of some of the other things that we have. I mean, we were trying to keep this as simple as possible. There are other things that are in our what we call the whiteboard list that relate to these also, and so maybe put some context in there. But we'd be happy to get some numbers by
I
these.
just like to lay my eyes on it. I mean, it's a lot of money, and it sounds like a great plan. It really does. Being able to finance it and make it happen. But as you said, this council's got to make the decision.
Yes.
And so, at least I'll speak for my part. If I could have a little more data to dive into, it would probably make me feel a lot better. I wouldn't be fretting down, right? You throw it apart. Right? So, anyway, thank you for your time. I appreciate all that. Thank you, Mayor.
And we'll go to Jesse first here.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of my questions have been answered, but one, if using the WIFA loan to offset the costs of the 595 program, if we're unsuccessful with the WIFA loan, then it would kill the 595 program, or do you have alternative ways to fund that?
I believe that we would know the outcome of the WIFA loan prior to having the full outcome of the 595. I think we still have time to back out of 595 because they're not announcing until February, right?
February is when, the PPA would be executed.
Yeah, and so we have time to either find a plan B or say we just can't do that.
Okay.
Okay.
And based off of further on in the agenda, when we go to see about the call for vote of these, when we do that, this is just saying we can go forward with it,
Right,
but at any
yes.
time we can rescind that.
Yes, there's nothing that is you're done. It's not like driving the car home. These are just, we're shopping still, and we're making the steps it takes to get to that final decision.
All right. Thank you.
It's way too much to do in one night.
Or Brother Martin, I'm sorry, just to piggyback on his question also, when you said if we don't get the WIPA loan, Tina had mentioned the $595,000 that we have within our fund, or enterprise, currently.
Correct.
Plus another 100 or some thousand that we show extra this next thing coming up.
Right,
So
and
we may have it alcohol.
and if you break that 750 or the 700,000 over a 2-year span, the majority of that hits next year. So we would only need, maybe 250,000 in WIFA for this budget cycle, and then we could, like say, the fees will get kicked in. We can figure something out. But again, I want to go into this with 2 buckets of money that is dedicated, and then we can work from there.
Go ahead, Marlon.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. Watching this council in action the last 2.5 years, we've taken one option off the table in all of our deliberations, do nothing. We're not going there yet. We're gonna do something. We're gonna find a solution or another way to get the funding we need to get. That's the option that I've seen go away. I'm not down dissing previous councils, but it was a lackadaisical point of view. And one of the most inspiring things I ever saw as a planner, retired from emergency management, is to walk through as they refurbished the Hagen tanks. Impressive work by professionals. And that was very, very uplifting to know that we're investing in our future. But that's the comment I want to leave. We're not going to do nothing in any of the subjects that we're approaching or discussing. I've seen that for 2.5 years. The first thing we shove off the table is do nothing. What's our solution? Where can our department heads go and beat the bush to get us solutions? And this is no different than what we've been doing the past 2.5 years. You can call it whatever you want, leveraging or finagling, I don't care what you want to call it. We're going to find a way to improve this infrastructure one way or another with the available resources of the federal government and all the other agencies that come to play that are flush with money. And our departments are doing a great job beating the bushes to make that happen. But that one option of doing nothing, I don't hear that. Haven't heard that for 2.5 years. And I don't expect that anyone will say that in the next few years. We've got a lot of work to do. Let's go find the options and let's move forward and improve all of the infrastructure that we have. That's the driving thing that I hear from the past 2 years. Let's find the options. Let's get them. And thank you for it. Yeah. No, I think it's a good plan. I think we really need to go forward. I don't foresee it being a problem with we have so much money that came in from infrastructure, and we're really trying to pick the best projects and move forward. So I don't think we're going to have any problems.
And I think for the public that doesn't know, that Fernando is on the state WIFA board that makes these decisions, so he gives us the insight on those also. So that's why he's speaking from that position. I just have one last comment on I think, these are unique times, and federal state funds that are coming through the pipe. I mean, these are huge projects, lots of money coming through. I agree, we need to find ways to make them happen in whatever manner, and I really appreciate and commend our staff for working hard to get to this point of finding options as to make it happen. So truly, I appreciate everything that you guys have done, the staff, because, you know, we're in uncharted territory. We're seeing more development here coming now, seeing more investors that are interested. We're at the peak of growth right now, and we need to make sure that our infrastructure is sound, because that's the base of our economic future. We have to have a good infrastructure if we're gonna have a good economic future in our city. So thank you to the staff from the PowerPoint presentations. I love spreadsheets. Thank you whoever did those. And,
That's our engineer.
and, you know, all who participated in this presentation. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I mean, we went with a linear pro con cost benefit of this by putting reliable infrastructure in and you know a good conservation methods. These do help have a secondary benefit to development, to economic development, to new people coming in. Again, that northeast corridor is where our future will come, and we didn't even delve into the secondary advantages to that could help pay for all this. But right now we're looking at just cost benefit on straight line on this stuff, which I think is the right way for you to decide. So,
thank you, Luis. Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
That was easy, huh?
I'm good, and I really appreciate your comments, Councilman Diaz, because you know you know what you're talking about, and yeah, I'm listening. You know? Thank you.
We're all here for we're all in it for the same common goal. That's what it is.
So we'll go to consent calendar, and matters listed in the consent calendar considered to be routine will be enacted with one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. We have item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A, prior discussion rules to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Item 1, accounts payable, $320,086.48. 2, consideration of approval of council minutes. 2A, consideration to approve the September 26, 2023 meeting minutes. 3, consideration of the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission recommendation to approve a request to install new signs for the Ambrose Realty offices at 288 North Broad Street. Item 4, consideration of the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission's recommendation to approve a request for a new exterior paint color scheme for a building located at 392 North Broad Street. 5, consideration of the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission's recommendation to approve a request for a new exterior paint color scheme and awning for the building at 394 North Broad Street. 6, consideration of the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission's recommendation to approve a request to approve a new exterior paint color scheme for the installation of a white picket fence for the home located at 233 South Broad Street. And item 7 is consideration to approve the donation of the High Street Rainbow Bridge to include a commercial grade bone bench, a life-size bronze sculpture of a dog, and a dozen small memorial signs by the Love Where You Live organization. Do we have anybody from staff, council, or the public wishing to remove any of these items for consideration?
Mr. Mayor, no other comments or questions. I motion we accept the consent agenda as read. Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda as read. Is there any further discussion? I would just like to put in there, I know we have addresses on some of these requests for paint color scheme, but one of them is, it's gonna be, the building, and it's John Wong's building, across the street from there. And then I guess everybody did get the color palette on those.
Yeah.
Yep, the huddle, and we have the addresses, so there's the huddle on there, so just so everybody's aware of that, okay? So any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item 5, new business. Consideration and possible approve resolution number 18 1883, authorizing the application for a water project, $2 million from the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona as required for the submission of the WIPA project finance application. Shelley, can you read resolution 1883, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1883, a resolution of the City of Globe of Gila County, Arizona, to authorize the application for a water project loan from the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we've talked about this. This is a 2 million water loan. This is the application to apply, and it's coming up very quickly. But we will have to come back with what would be the adoption of it, and then acceptance of the loan agreement. When we were going through figuring out which IGA to put on here, we found that there are 3 phases in this, and so this is the first of the 3. By doing this, I believe we will find. I don't think we'll find out the match amount at that point, but this keeps the process moving, and we do have a window that we're trying to meet. And so there's no need to waive the rule because it will come back twice after this, but this allows us to move the process and see what WIPA is going to tell us.
Are we looking for a move forward motion? Or?
No, we're looking for approval of this resolution, knowing that the same item will come back in the future. It is not the last time you will see it, or the last chance you'll have to turn it down.
Mayor, I would move to approve resolution number 1883 as read.
Second.
And I apologize, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Would you be able to add the stipulation that if willing that the loan, that the list of projects includes a $700,000 match for the Core 595 project? I'd like to go on record.
I would amend my vote to include that.
Doesn't it state that in item B?
No, that would be the PPA.
Yes.
You want the resolution to?
I want to make sure there's no way for us to say that, guarantee that loan. I want council to go on record saying, when you bring this loan back, it's got to have that match. And that's a way of you giving us direction that for right now, that's where we'd like to have that money set aside, because the resolution itself doesn't say the breakdown. All that we showed you on where the money is being spent is not listed in the document you're about to vote on. So my solution to that is a stipulation that when we bring this back, that we include that 700 match for the
So that's why I amend my motion to include that.
Second. I'll second.
Jesse seconded, he got it.
No, he did.
Oh, you seconded? Oh, okay.
Any further discussion? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And abstaining, motion passed. Item B, discussion and consideration of project partnership agreement between the City of Globe and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in order to receive funding initiated by U.S. Representative Greg Stanton in the amount of $2.1 million for the replacement of the city water main from the Arizona Department of Transportation facility to the fairgrounds entrance, and requiring the dedication of an additional 25% match in the amount of $700,000 by the city.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we talked about this. This is a partnering agreement. By voting for this, you do say that we are committed to this project, even though they don't finalize this until February. They won't go forward unless we do this part now. But we're not asking for you to prove it tonight. This one, we're asking you to carry it forward to the next available meeting. And we would, in the motion guide, it says October 24th meeting. So we're looking for a motion and a second to move this forward to the next meeting, if you feel compelled to do so.
No other questions or comments, Mayor? I motion to move it to the next available meeting.
Motion second for moving forward item B to the next meeting. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Freddie.
I would just like to add, and for just the general public to know, as Councilman Gonzalez mentioned, we look for ways to fund projects. Well, this is a prime example of the trip to Washington that we took, Washington, D.C. this was one of those line items that we met with, Mr. Stanton's, staff. We sat, we talked about it, and we gave our pitch. And, you know, here we are today, ratifying and accepting. So,
Yeah,
just another example.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, these are good problems to have.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item C, the council will consider and possibly approve a request to set aside $750,000 in the budgeted line item securing future water account number 50-80-51245 to be used as possible matching funds for our $3 million Water Infrastructure Finance Authority WIFA Water Conservation Grant water meter project in anticipation of a possible WIFA board approval.
And so, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we talked about this, and this is my way, the staff's way again of saying we're getting a commitment by a vote by council that you're committing these funds to possibly match that. Doesn't mean it has to do it, but we're going to put these in a box. We're going to put them in a line item, and they'll be protected until you let them out. And that way we know that if we are so lucky to get that with approval, that we have the match funds ready to go. And if the meeting is moved to the second, we still will come back. This is a motion to move this forward to the next meeting on the 24th, and we'll finalize that. And then hopefully the meeting after that, we'll come back and accept the grant from WIFA. But again, this goes on record as to where we're getting these match funds. So there's no confusion, and we don't double book them, or we don't, you know, this is doing it by the numbers.
Mayor, I would move that we do the set aside from the securing future water account, the amount of $750,000. So.
We have a motion and a second for item 5C. Is there any further discussion?
I'm sorry, moving to the next meeting. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Moving forward.
We move forward to the 24th. Good catch.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item 6 is we have no action items. Item 7, late agenda item. Do we have any?
We have no, oh, no, we don't.
I'd like to talk about the issue that I got.
That would be the next thing to talk about. Second call to the public. Do we have any online?
I have nothing there.
Nothing online.
Scheduling of meetings,
Nothing out of the ordinary.
consideration of future agenda items.
This would be it?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to propose that, and I'm not sure what capacity or form that we would talk about this, whether it's committee or, you let me know, but, I have a constituent that has raised some concern about, the train depot here by one of the tracks, underneath the bridge where, whatever company it is loading or unloading some powdery substance. It's going airborne and it's hovering over downtown. I've seen it. I was forwarded pictures. So I think there's a real concern for our citizens' health on whatever that substance is. But it definitely is airborne. And just hoping that maybe we can talk about what kinds of options, mitigation options there might be to keep that dust plume from hovering over downtown.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Rios, we do have some information and we'll pull together information. I would recommend we start with a work group meeting, and I think from there maybe I'll have a follow-up presentation with some more positive news. But for informational wise, I think let's start with the work group, and I think that would be either quality of life or infrastructure. I'll have to check and see where that would fit, which group it would fit into. We'll make sure fits in the one that you're on.
Well, I just think it's something that needs to be talked about.
Okay.
So our code has no teeth in progressive abatement for this type of project.
I'm-
You know, I spoke in my state of the city, we talk about, go forward and we talk about beautification along our corridor, beautification of our downtown, and here we've got a facility for a business that's, creating dust, not only in that neighborhood there, but throughout the city. And I think it's something we really need to address,
And-
because people see it.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I hear you loud and clear. I know Tony's sitting back there ready to go, but I'm not gonna let him. Because it's not fair to bring an issue that's really not been agendized. This is, we're talking about bringing it forward. But we have dealt with this before. We have a plan and some action, and we'd be happy to start that process, as soon as we can pull together a daytime meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other agenda items for the future? As for motion for adjournment?
Motion made.
Second.
Motion is second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
And thank you to Tina and Dennis. Thank you for hanging on with us, everybody. And James.